Hello, this is Dr. Azize Ummanel from European University of Lefke, Northern Cyprus. Before I start my speech, I would like to thank Dr. Bekir for this opportunity and Cognitive and Behavioral Psychotherapy Society for the organization. My research interest is history of early childhood education and history plus child-related topics. I am also very into narratives. Today, I will tell you about memories of war from different people, from different countries. War is defined as a situation in which two or more countries or groups of people fight against each other over a period of time. We all agree that war has devastating effects on people. However, sometimes words may fall short when talking about it. Here are some pictures that describe war better than the words that I would like to show you. This picture is from World War I. Here is a group of children in the uniforms. They are underage, but they are wearing uniforms and they have guns. These two pictures are from World War II. You can see the kids crying and a group of people laying on a railroad. These images are from Korea. So in these pictures, we see soldiers, kids, underage people, a camp, a tank, a plane, as well as fear. These two pictures are from Vietnam. All I can see is the fear and despair, unfortunately. These two pictures are from Cyprus. The one on the left-hand side, it's an iconic picture. Well, they both tell a lot about pain. On the left-hand side, crying women. On the right-hand side, you can see people who are looking for their missing relatives. These pictures are from Bosnia and Herzegovina. What I can see is hopelessness. This one is from Syria, and what I see is demolition. This one is from Afghanistan, and you can easily feel the fear. And these are from Ukraine, and this is the war next to us. In these pictures, we can easily see the fear in people's eyes, as well as sadness, despair, pain, astonishment, and anxiety. A traumatic event is a shocking, scary, or dangerous experience that affects you emotionally. During war, people can be exposed to many different traumatic events that raises the chances of developing mental health problems like post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression. These are the emotional effects of the war. Even if it lasts for a period of time, its effects could last longer than we can imagine. Now, I would like to share some memories of war to understand its damages on people. This story belongs to a woman who is nearly 40 years old. My parents ran away from Saddam. If they had stayed in Iraq, they would have been dead today. They escaped to Cyprus, and after a year, I was born. It's been nearly 40 years that we have been living here, and for 40 years my parents speak Arabic when they are alone. My mom always talks about her hometown and says how she misses it. This memory belonged to a woman who is more than 60 years old now. When intercommunal violence hits up in Cyprus, I was only 14 years old. I remember that we were brought to a big warehouse. It was a smelly place. There were women and children only. I was wondering my father and my brothers as they were taken to another place. I didn't know if I was going to see them again. After a few days, my brother, his wife, and I went to a house in a different city, and we started living there with some other people. I started going to the school there, and 5 months later, a day, my teacher called me and said, "There is someone who wants to see you." It was my father. He was alive. He said they came to take me. I remember that I cried a lot. We went to a village and we were given a new house. We met new people, new neighbors, but I always missed the smell of my village and my home. Years after, I went to my hometown. I found my house. It wasn't there except the tiles of our kitchen. So she could only find a wall. I never went there again. Those days, there was a book called Siamese Twins I was reading. Siamese twins have only one body and two heads, like one land and two countries. Isn't it meaningful? This is what this woman says. Here is another tragic one. My father sent mom away when it started, and he stayed to fight. My mom was pregnant to me. She couldn't get any information for months, and she was thinking that my dad was already dead. One day, somebody knocked the door. There was a stranger staring at my mom. He gave her a note, a piece of split, dirty paper. It was written, "I'm not dead, I am alive, wait for me." And my mother realized that that note is from my father and he wasn't dead. This story is from a young man who went to a country to get some English courses to improve his language. What he says is, "I was getting courses to improve my English. That day, students were introducing their countries. A friend introduced Germany, another Vietnam, and so on. Finally, our teacher told and said, 'My country doesn't exist anymore.' The verse banged in my head. Isn't it the worst thing ever, having no country?" These memories are about a woman who misses her hometown and still dreams about it. A married couple who are refugees and have to raise their children in a different culture. A mother who had to accept that her husband is dead. And a teacher whose country doesn't exist anymore. Beside these, there are youngsters who were given guns at small ages, men who had to leave their families, and missing people who are still being searched. And now I'm going to share their stories. This is from Mehmet. He is now 61 years old. I was playing with my friends and started hearing the guns. We ran into a house. There were 4 or 5 men in the house. I saw the guns. Because I was taller than my friends, I was given one and told to use it if I have to. I was only 13. All I could think about at that moment was to go home and tell my mom that I'm fine. And this one is about a woman. Her brother is telling the story. I managed to take my parents and my brothers to the safe zone, but my sister was still there. She was pregnant and her husband was prisoner. She was beaten by some guys. A few days later, I went to take her. She wasn't well. She gave birth to a dead baby. We buried him in the safe zone. I know you are already feeling depressive, but this is the final one. There was a woman. Her husband and brothers have been missing for more than 40 years. She's been hoping they'll be found for years. One day, their missing bones were found in a mass grave. She organized a funeral for her husband after 40 years of his death. At least he has a grave now, she says. She accepts her husband's death and realizes that there is no hope for her husband to come back. Whether it is next to us or not, the devastating impact of war has similar consequences. Somehow, this effect manifests itself not only in those who have experienced the war, but also in those who have not. Regarding to a study with women poets, even if they didn't experience the war, it's been determined that some poets reflect the war years in their country in their poems. This poem is from Feriha Altıok. Ballads love to play in cradles the most, like bloody toy pieces. They never ask their moms, while bombs throw the kids. This one is from Filiz Naldovan. Counting ballads, he spent the big holiday and never been a child. So this is about a stolen childhood. This is a very famous poem, and it was translated to English and Greek from Turkish. They say that a man must love his land. My father says this to me. My own land has been divided into two. Which of the two parts should I love? These three poets have a war experience and they had to leave their hometown. Similarly, poets who didn't experience the war have war and conflict related poems. Now, I'm going to tell you about these poems. This is from Nafiye Akdeniz, and this poem is related to an unrecognized country. If this is a South Cyprus flag, underneath it says just Cyprus. Why in the geography books there is no North Cyprus? Following two poems belong to the same person, Ali Ummanel. Leave your red ball and run barefoot where the others escape. Come back after 30 years and ask, where is my red ball? And this is the final one. My darling, take out the last ballad in your memory. What if we were kids again, in front of a wall, playing hide and seek? What if? According to Welek and Warren, it's necessary to examine a literary work by taking into account the psychology of the author, the economic, social, and political conditions in the society in which she lives. However, even they live in the war or post-war period, it is possible to see similar themes in the poems of poets. This reminds the social memory. Therefore, the phenomenon of war which takes its place in the society, in the social memory, can even show itself in the poems of a person who has never experienced war. Although the war is over, it's seen that the wounds do not heal easily and the scars of the war can be passed on to the next generations. So I'm asking, why are we still fighting and isn't there another way? Thank you all for your attention.